Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, over the years, Mauritius has established itself as a vibrant and leading international fund management center. Honorable Siratan has provided the figures. There are around 1,000 collective investment schemes and closed-end funds which are set up and administered from Mauritius, and 432 CIS managers which are licensed by the FSC. As of June 2021, management companies, most of them offer, of course, fund administration services, employed around 4,500 persons, while CIS managers employed around 170 persons. Most of these employees are high-skilled professionals. This shows how crucial is the investment fund sector to Mauritius. At the world stage, competition is tough with respect to the investment fund sector, be it from other international financial centers such as Singapore, Cayman, or most recently, JFT City. For this reason, we need to innovate and follow the international trend. The introduction of this corporate structure will allow us to capture value from the full fund management value chain. This corporate structure can be used like a traditional fund structure as well as in creative and innovative way. It is a combination of legal entity and a fund structure which may be used for all types of investment funds, including mutual funds, hedge funds, private equity, and real estate funds. Mr. Speaker, sir, our financial sector today is built upon three pillars: cross-border investment, cross-border corporate banking, and private banking and wealth management. The core area of specialization is the facilitation of cross-border investments and related fund administration activities, which comprise an estimated 88% of IFC tax revenues and 70% of the sector's employment. In line with the Mauritian government's Vision 2030, target to double the size of the financial sector, we thus aspire to grow its contribution to GDP to $1.9 billion, which will increase IFC-related employment by 1.5 times to approximately 17,000 jobs and increase tax revenue to approximately $0.3 billion. Achieving these ambitions are dependent on many factors, including adapting our legislative framework to cater for vehicles and structures meeting the needs and demands of the international market. Hence, the very recent adoption of the Virtual Asset and Initial Token Offering Services Act, and now the introduction of the Variable Capital Companies Bill. This sector, Mr. Speaker, sir, has its own dynamics. And to reach the milestones and achieve the targets set, we need to keep up with the pace of the market and match the fierce competition with other jurisdictions. The growth of our financial sector also rests on parameters of compliance with international norms and guidelines. However, the expansion and growth of the sector were challenged. The sector was already subjected to growing international pressure, adverse press coverage, and the changing international economic landscape. And the fact that Honorable Utim and Honorable Boulel raised the issue, let me therefore also address the matter. Not only it is relevant, but it is important to recall how challenging the past 2 years has been for the sector, and to highlight the commitment and effort put in by the Prime Minister and the government in ensuring that our financial sector lives to the reputation it has built itself. Mr. Speaker, sir, February 2020, the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, placed Mauritius, along with 17 other countries, on its grey list. And as a consequence of this listing, Mauritius was also listed on the EU's list of high-risk countries, the blacklist, which was effective as from October 2020. A serious challenge for a sector which is a core part of the Mauritian economy, a sector which contributes almost $1 billion to GDP and approximately $180 million in tax revenues and provides nearly 12,000 to 15,000 jobs. Ceci dit, the FATF did acknowledge the progress made by Mauritius in improving its technical compliance with the FATF recommendations and increasing the level of effectiveness of its AML-CFT system during the one-year observation period, which started in October 2018 and ended in October 2019. Honorable Boulel is right. Successive governments have contributed in building the reputation of our financial sector. But unfortunately, the level of commitment has varied from government to government. The listing in 2020, Mr. Speaker, sir, did not just crop up within a span of a couple of years. Il faudra remonter dans le temps pour cela. Far back as 2007, when Mauritius underwent a prior assessment in 2007 under the FATF methodology of 2004. The assessment was focused on technical compliance with the then FATF 40+9 recommendations, and the mutual evaluation report was published in August 2008. Several deficiencies were identified therein, in particular regarding the AML-CFT regulation on the designated non-financial businesses and professions, including casinos, real estate agents, legal and accounting professionals. However, limited action was taken to address these deficiencies. En 2012, the FATF reviewed its recommendations, and countries were requested to initiate actions to ensure compliance with the revised recommendation. That is what we now call 40 FATF recommendations. Again, Mr. Speaker, sir, unfortunately, no action was initiated by the authorities at that time, and this resulted in the 2018 MER report with modest ratings for the country. And Mr. Speaker, sir, it is good to note that in practice, after a country has undergone a mutual evaluation, it is expected that it will address all its technical deficiencies within the first 2 years following the adoption of its MER. Subsequently, the country has up to 3 years to improve its level of effectiveness. Actually, the inertia demonstrated at that time from 2008 and subsequently 2012 led to a large number of technical deficiencies being highlighted in the Mauritius MER report, and we were rated low or moderate against all the 11 immediate outcomes. It is only, Mr. Speaker, sir, in 2015 that major changes were brought. 2015, the Asset Recovery Investigative Department under the Asset Recovery Act was introduced. 2018, amendments were made to 19 legislations relating to money laundering, and furthermore, toujours 2018, a new financial intelligence and anti-money laundering regulation was promulgated, which set out the whole range of FATF preventive measures to be implemented by the relevant actors in the industry. Still 2018, we came up with a new Declaration of Assets Bill. 2019, another important piece of legislation, that is the Anti-Money Laundering and Combating the Financial of Terrorism and Proliferation Miscellaneous Provision Act 2019 was enacted. 2020, the AML-CFT Miscellaneous Provision Act 2020 was passed. To be more direct, Mr. Speaker, sir, from 2018 to date, 46 pieces of legislation were amended to assist Mauritius in strengthening its AML-CFT regime. The FATF noted that since the adoption of its MER in 2018, Mauritius has made significant progress in addressing most of the MER recommended actions to improve technical compliance with the FATF 40 recommendations and to increase the level of effectiveness of its AML-CFT system. Le gouvernement was proactive in tackling the strategic deficiencies, inter alia, et sans creuser dans les détails, through the setting up of an interministerial committee chaired by the Honourable Prime Minister himself to monitor closely the progress made in the implementation of the action plan. Mr. Speaker, sir, getting out of the grey and the black list was a result of considerable effort, commitment, determination, and hard work by the government, but also the private operators. Things did not simply roll out of a box. Le Premier Ministre, le Ministre des Services Financiers, and all other officers from different ministries and various stakeholders toiled to make it happen. And the result, Mr. Speaker, sir, Mauritius was commended for its strong political commitment and the sustained progress made in the implementation of the FATF action plan. Just 16 months after placing Mauritius on its grey list, the FATF made the initial determination that Mauritius has substantially completed its action plan. In fact, FATF has concluded that Mauritius has strengthened the effectiveness of its AML-CFT regime and has addressed all the strategic deficiencies identified in its action plan. Several countries went on to congratulate and commend Mauritius for successfully completing the FATF action plan, despite challenges caused by COVID-19 pandemic and the significant progress achieved within such record time frame. Using the words of Honorable Boulel, this is when the peacock actually fully spread its feathers in splendor in front of the whole world. We now continue under the close supervision of the Prime Minister along this path and will remain committed to maintain the standards set by international supervisory or advisory organizations. Our jurisdiction remains a reference in the financial sphere and remains an international financial center of sound repute. We need to understand that this sector is crucial for the country. Singapore, yes, is a leading jurisdiction in this sector. We all acknowledge the fact that Singapore is rated A, if I can term it as A grade. But in Singapore, the financial sector does not suffer from intense negative publicity of our jurisdiction from the press. Nor does Singapore has members of the opposition that resolve at creating propaganda to paint black the image of the country vis-à-vis la communauté internationale. I say it again, we have to understand that this sector is crucial for the country. This sector employs nearly 15,000 people, and the livelihood of all those thousands of people are at stake. So we need to be reasonable in our approach, and at times leave politics aside and think in the better interests of the country. And Mr. Speaker, sir, this bill is another stone being laid towards the development and growth of the sector. This bill will help regenerate and rejuvenate the fund industry. To conclude, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm confident that this sector has untapped potentials that this bill will bring forth and further confirm Mauritius as a competitive jurisdiction as opposed to our direct competing jurisdictions. With these words, Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to commend the Honourable Minister of Financial Services and Good Governance for bringing this bill to the House. Thank you, sir.